There are various ways that each one of us uses to avoid or stuff or deny or fight or shut off our feelings. Usually we learn these in childhood. And it's okay to do these on occasion, but when we're dependent on them, it can become very unhealthy. So let's go over what those are. Avoidance and distraction. This is staying so busy that there's no time to feel, or just avoiding our feelings. And when this is our lifestyle, we tend to not even know what we're feeling most of the time. Then there's perfectionism or compulsions. There's state changing, which is using external tools like sex or drugs or food to change how we feel. There's also analyzing and intellectualizing. That's thinking and even talking about our feelings instead of actually feeling them. There's over empathizing. That's taking on other people's feelings as your own so you don't have to feel yours. Or there's being in them all the time and being overruled by them so we don't process them. We just basically are ruled by them, we feel them, we focus on them all the time. There's also trying to pray them away or even do warfare to get rid of them. And there's denial, which is the opposite of truth. There's also going what I call Pollyanna positive. That's where we paint such a rosy picture either to ourselves or to others that we deny our inner world and our inner experience. And this is especially common among Christians who have taken the scriptures to meditate on good things and put the past behind us to mean incorrectly that we need to shut ourselves down. And lastly, there's being a vacillator. When this is your style of handling your inner world, you tend to go between pushing and pulling with others in your life and with your own feelings. You tend to view life as if even if you do get what you want, it's not going to last. You're going to be left alone and waiting once again. And so you tend to feel overwhelmed by your own feelings and get easily distracted. You jump from one topic to another without going deeply into self-reflection. And you really do focus more on what others have done to you rather than your own inner world. So I'd like to give you a framework to think about your feelings within. We generally, this is a really broad stroke here, okay, but we generally have like 3 kinds of emotions. We have trauma emotions, we have emotions based on lies, and we have what I, for lack of a better word, will call true emotions. I mean, they're all true because we're all feeling them. But trauma emotions are ones that are brought on by our flight, fight, freeze, fawn response: anger, fear, shutdown, conciliation. Emotions based on lies are ones like shame, worry, false guilt, fear if you're perfectly safe in your life. And then true emotions are ones like grief, anger, loneliness, fear if you're unsafe in your life, betrayal, happiness. Now, the same emotion can stem from different sources, so knowing which kind of emotion it is helps us know how to handle it. So in another broad stroke, trauma emotions that are triggered in the present come from PTSD and our fight, flight, freeze response. And these need to be regulated so our body can calm down and we can judge what's going on rightly. Now, if we're still being abused, we'll be having lots of trauma emotions that are telling us that we actually aren't safe in the present, as opposed to being triggered about something that happened in the past. Emotions based on lies need to be dealt with by healing the trauma or the source that laid in that lie behind the emotion originally, and also fighting those lies with truth. And then true emotions are the ones that are just a normal human response to being treated poorly, to being neglected, rejected, to not being loved, to being lonely. Emotions like grief need to be felt and honored and to be resolved and healed. And if we're feeling those because we're in an active situation where we're experiencing that, we eventually will need to leave the situation that's causing them. So some of the trickiest emotions to sort out are the ones that were true in the past, and they formed us through trauma, and they still affect us very deeply today. And so we can still think that these feelings are actually true when they aren't, when they are triggered by a real event in the present that overwhelms us with all the pain of our life and all that unhealed trauma. So these could be emotions like feeling distrust, feeling abandoned or rejected when we're not being abandoned and rejected, feeling isolated from others, feeling powerless when there are things we could do, feeling despair. And if these originated in childhood and they're really, really overwhelming you, you might need healing with a trauma therapist. And then also, sometimes our emotions can be from our body being out of whack chemically or from being sick. So I have ulcerative colitis, and when it flares up, which is very rarely, thankfully, I get completely overwhelmed with depression. And that is because our gut brain is really connected to our feelings. So emotional maturity is the ability to know what the source of our emotion is, to understand what they're telling us, and then to follow them when it's the healthy thing to do, or to know how to deal with them properly when it's not the healthy thing to follow them. When we understand our feelings and we listen to the information they're giving us when it's relevant, we actually start to grow this deeper sense of self-worth and self-acceptance. So, to approach our feelings safely, we can ask ourselves, what am I feeling? Is this a trauma emotion, an emotion based on a lie, or a true emotion? Do I need to regulate it, like anxiety? Do I need to feel it, like grief? Or do I need to examine it for a lie, like self-blame? If it's a trauma reaction, you can use a tool until you feel regulated, and then see if there's more to do. If there are lies behind it, you can ask, what are the lies that are making the feeling worse? And what is the truth? What can I do for myself right now to use physical tools to change those lies? And then if it's an emotion that needs to be honored, can I just let myself feel it? How does it feel in my body? How can I regulate myself so I'm not overwhelmed by it? And that's, of course, using self-compassion and the tools. When we know we can handle our emotions and when we can feel our true feelings in God's presence with Him, it really increases our intimacy with Him and with ourselves. We become closer to ourselves, and we really start to become our own best friend.